Welcome back to the deep dive. You've sent us, well, quite an impressive collection of source material.
Yeah, a lot to sift through.
Definitely. It covers behavioral psychology, ancient teaching methods, modern communication,
Yeah.
all kind of circling this big question, right?
How do we actually get clarity and make things memorable, especially now with just information everywhere?
Exactly. So our mission today is to try and cut through some of that noise.
Okay.
We're looking at these incredibly effective, sort of timeless lessons from, well, history's master communicators. We're really going to analyze the teaching methods used by Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
And see how they apply today.
Precisely. How those techniques map onto our modern challenges. This isn't just history, it's more like rhetorical engineering, maybe.
I like that, rhetorical engineering.
We want to unlock the power of these concept-based images, these metaphors, visual models. Find that shortcut to making knowledge actually stick.
And that stickiness, it's fundamentally a cognitive issue, isn't it?
Seems like it.
The core idea we pulled from all those sources is pretty clear. Humans, well, we primarily think and remember in images. Spatial stuff, not just abstract data.
Right. Like, you can give someone a logical argument or a complex spreadsheet.
But if it doesn't have that anchor, that image,
Yeah.
it's just forgettable. Abstract theory doesn't stick.
But images do. They're the anchors.
Exactly. They seem to bypass some of the heavy lifting, linguistically speaking, and connect right into our deep memory.
So we need to figure out how that works, the mechanics of it.
Yeah. How did these successful teachers take something really abstract, like a moral value or a spiritual idea, and transform it into something lived, something you remember and act on?
We're looking for those specific techniques, the ones that give you that shortcut.
Right. Moving you from just knowing stuff, being informed, to actually being action-oriented because it's anchored deep down.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Where do we start?
Let's start with why the oldest methods still work, why they tap into this universal human psychology.
Good starting point. That structural analysis feels key. When you look at the sources, what's striking is the consistency. The Prophet Muhammad's method wasn't random.
No, definitely not.
He didn't just state a value, he illustrated it. He used metaphors, similes, things that painted these instant, really clear pictures in people's minds.
Establishing these visual models as timeless tools because they connect to experiences everyone has.
That universality must be part of it.
Oh, absolutely. And what's fascinating is the cognitive leap these metaphors create, almost instant.
How so?
Well, by linking something abstract, maybe a spiritual or ethical idea, to something concrete, something visceral, primal even.
Something everyone gets,
Sure.
regardless of background.
Exactly. That value gets instantly, institutionalized in your memory. He turned philosophical concepts into things you could almost feel and see.
Okay, let's spend some time on those specific metaphors. Let's really dissect why they work so well anchoring these big ideas.
Sounds good. The first one, and it's arguably one of the most powerful institutionally, is metaphor one, believers as one body.
Ah, yes, that's a famous one.
It is. And the premise is simple, but profound. If one part of the body hurts, the whole system feels it. The whole person reacts.
Fever, can't sleep, restlessness.
Right. That image immediately locks in the values of community, mutual responsibility, empathy.
It does more than just suggest empathy, though, doesn't it? It kind of reframes it.
How do you mean?
Well, it takes the choice to help someone out of the equation, almost. It's not just a nice moral option anymore. It becomes like a physiological need, non-negotiable.
That's a great way to put it, physiological. If your hand gets injured, your whole system kicks in to protect it. There's no debate.
Your body just does it.
Exactly. So this metaphor taps into that fundamental, undeniable truth of our physical selves. You feel pain in your foot. You don't rationally debate caring about it. The pain demands your attention. So by equating the community, the ummah, in the context of the sources to the body, it imposes that same immediate mandatory response onto social responsibility.
It creates a kind of physiological mandate for looking out for each other.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that's why it sticks. It's not just a philosophy you learned. It's a feeling of systemic necessity. You feel the connection.
Okay, powerful stuff. Let's move to the second one, metaphor 2, guidance as light. How does that comparison work so efficiently? What's the mechanism there?
Well, it connects directly to a fundamental human experience, survival.
Light versus dark.
Exactly. The Quran and the Sunnah, the teachings and practices used for guidance, are compared to lamps. Lamps that light up the darkness.
Okay.
Think about being genuinely lost in pitch black darkness. You don't need a long philosophical discussion about truth then, do you?
No, you need a light. You need to see where you're going immediately.
Right. You need direction, clarity,
Yeah.
safety. This metaphor instantly defines the role of that guidance. It illuminates, it makes things safe, it shows the way.
So light becomes truth and safety, darkness is danger, going astray.
It's a very clear, almost binary navigation system. And it works because that struggle, light versus dark, is universal. Everyone understands needing light to find your way.
So it links abstract spiritual direction to that primal need for safety, finding your way home.
Yes. It becomes an instant moral compass. Feeling lost. Okay, look for the light. Simple, powerful, memorable.
Okay. And the third one you highlighted, leadership as shepherding. This one might feel, well, a bit dated to a modern audience maybe, with flat hierarchies, digital teams.
It can, yeah. And that's a really important point to tackle. On the surface, shepherd and flock might sound old-fashioned, maybe even a bit paternalistic.
Right.
But if we peel back the surface meaning and focus on the function that image anchors, it actually becomes incredibly relevant, radically modern even.
How so? What's the core function?
The analogy says every single person with authority, managing a family, leading a team, running a company, whatever, is accountable, like a shepherd.
Okay, but what does a shepherd do that's relevant?
They are proactively protective, they provide for the flock, they ensure safety, physical, and you could argue moral integrity for those in their care. They're the first line of defense and the last.
Ah, I see. So it's about profound, proactive accountability.
Yes, that's the anchor. It's about stewardship. The responsibility is high stakes. You can't pass the buck, no matter how big or small your flock is.
So the power isn't really in the literal image of the staff and sheep.
Not primarily, no.
It's in that radical emphasis on care, protection, and non-transferable responsibility.
Exactly. It sets an incredibly high ethical bar for leadership. It forces the leader to see their people, their resources, their tasks as a flock. They have to actively protect from harm.
Whether that harm is a competitor or an ethical slip-up or even just burnout.
Right. Any kind of danger. So the image, despite how old it sounds, anchors this timeless definition of effective, caring leadership, focused on protecting and helping the follower prosper.
So the analysis across all three is clear.
Yeah.
These images stick because they skip the purely intellectual route.
Right. They translate complex commands, spiritual ideas, leadership duties into concrete, relatable, everyday experiences. Things you don't just know, but you feel and you see.
Okay, so if the verbal pictures, the metaphors, are that powerful, this is where it gets really interesting for me. Let's move from just hearing it, the auditory, to the physical, the kinetic.
Ah, the demonstrations.
Yes, focusing on physical demonstration as another way to anchor abstract ideas in memory. This shows it was a whole communication style, right? Sometimes it was performed.
Absolutely. And this shift from just hearing an idea to seeing it demonstrated or linking it to a physical action, that's deeply rooted in how we learn. Cognitive psychology backs this up strongly. Dual coding theory, for instance.
Explain that quickly.
Basically, if information comes in both verbally and visually or kinetically through movement, it creates two separate memory traces in the brain.
Two pathways instead of one.
Exactly. Which reinforces the memory and makes it much, much more likely you'll be able to retrieve it later. It's like having a backup file.
Makes sense.
And the sources give us a perfect example. The famous story of drawing in the sand.
Right. To explain the straight path.
Yes. To teach the concept of the straight path of Allah, the path of devotion you should stick to, versus all the ways you could deviate. He literally drew it, a straight line in the sand.
And then?
Then, on either side of that main line, he drew smaller, crooked lines branching off, deviating from the main path.
That's immediate. It's brilliant, really. Just saying, stay on the path, avoid temptation is, well, it's okay, but it's weak.
It's abstract.
Yeah. But the drawing, it turns that complex idea into a visual map, a geography. The main line is the focused effort. The sidelines are all those constant tempting distractions pulling you away.
It gives a clarity that just words alone often struggle to achieve. That simple act of drawing transforms the abstract idea of striving into something physical, spatial.
So later, when you think about temptation,
Your brain instantly pulls up that image, those crooked lines peeling off the main one. It ties a moral commitment to a tangible spatial memory you can recall instantly. It's like geometry for the soul.
geometry for the soul. I like that. And it wasn't just drawing diagrams, right? There was also the use of specific physical gestures to condense meaning.
Oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
The sources highlight this too. Using physical gestures to really emphasize meaning, The key example given is holding two fingers tightly together,
Which fingers?
often described as the middle finger and the index finger,
Yeah.
holding them side by side, touching.
And what did that represent?
It showed the closeness, the togetherness of believers in Jannah, in paradise.
Wow. Okay, think about the concept there. Ultimate reward, eternal closeness, fellowship with God. These are maybe the most abstract, high-stakes ideas possible.
Extremely abstract.
And yet he uses this simple, tangible, physical gesture, just touching two fingers together, to provide a highly compressed, easily remembered symbol for that ultimate goal, that closeness.
That's the power of compression, isn't it?
Mhm.
Tying the promise of this ultimate unseen reality to a common, repeatable physical action.
And it taps into kinesthetic learning, too, right? The memory tied to muscle movement, anchoring a spiritual concept physically.
Yes. So the key lesson from the analysis here has to be this. Visual and kinetic demonstrations take incredibly complex ideas and turn them into simple, retrievable memories. Tied to a physical act, the person can even subconsciously mimic or see later.
It's not just talking at people.
No, it's giving them a physical handle for an abstract idea, making it graspable.
Okay, so we have powerful metaphors and we have physical demonstrations. Now let's shift to the packaging, the delivery. How do you ensure not just understanding, but actual retention?
This is where technique comes in.
The sources emphasize the strategy of repetition. Specifically, the prophet, peace be upon him, often repeated key messages 3 times.
Right. Repetition is a classic memory aid.
It can be dry on its own, though. But when you combine that repetition with the kind of powerful visuals we've been discussing,
Then it really drills the message into long-term memory. That repetition serves a couple of purposes. First, obviously, pedagogical recall, making sure the idea is actually heard and registered multiple times.
standard teaching practice, really.
But second, it also communicates urgency, sincerity, importance. If someone you trust repeats a critical warning 3 times, pausing in between perhaps.
You pay attention, it elevates the message exponentially.
Exactly. The repetition sets the hook firmly. But the real power comes from what is being repeated. These short, vivid, potent images designed for instant recall and lasting impact.
Okay, give us an example of that short, powerful imagery.
A really striking one is the writer's shade.
Ah, yes.
He compared the dunya, this worldly life, all his temporary stuff, possessions, experiences, to merely the shade a writer finds under a tree.
Just a brief stop.
Exactly. The writer stops, rests for a short while, gets a little relief from the sun, and then what?
Then they get back on their horse or camel and continue the real journey, leaving the shade behind.
Right. That image is incredibly efficient, isn't it?
Profoundly so. It
Yeah.
instantly deflates our ego, our obsession with accumulating things in this life. It frames our whole lifespan, which feels so huge to us.
As nothing more than a quick rest stop, a pause on a much, much longer journey.
It's a masterclass in shifting perspective.
It really is. The contrast is stark. The immense value we naturally place on worldly things versus the immediate, undeniable recognition of how fleeting it all is, just from that one image.
And it sticks because it's emotionally charged, right? Everyone knows what seeking shade feels like.
Yes, and it's intellectually efficient. It compresses an entire philosophy of detachment, or at least perspective on materialism, into maybe 5 seconds of visualization. Unforgettable,
Wow. Okay, another example, one about urgency.
definitely. We also see this mechanism in the fire warning.
Okay.
Here, he likened himself to a man who sees a huge fire approaching a group of people. He's frantically trying to warn them.
Trying to pull them back.
Yes, physically trying to pull them back from danger, but some are just stubbornly ignoring him, rushing headlong into the flames.
So again, connecting an abstract danger, maybe spiritual danger, or the consequences of ignoring guidance to something primal, life-threatening, a fire.
Exactly. He ensures the listener receives the message with the same level of gut-level urgency they'd feel if someone screamed fire in a crowded room.
Because if I just tell you, you should be more spiritually aware, well,
Easy to ignore, tune it out, file it under should do later.
but if I say, look out, I am literally pulling you back from a raging fire.
Your entire nervous system lights up. You react. This imagery is a profound way to establish the messenger's sincerity and the incredibly high stakes involved.
So synthesizing these techniques, it's the combination. Vivid, short images like the writer's shade, plus structured repetition.
That's the formula. It ensures the teaching doesn't just remain a suggestion.
Yeah.
It becomes a permanent memory anchor, almost a command on your consciousness.
Okay, so we've analyzed this historical success. Masterful communication. Now, the big question, what does this all mean for us today? We're drowning in data. Visual communication is everywhere. How do these ancient techniques help us cut through our noise?
Well, connecting that historical method to right now, you see the core challenge is flipped, hasn't it?
Flipped how?
It used to be about access to information, scarcity. Now it's about filtration, retention. There's just too much. Data streams are constant, overwhelming. Complexity is the default.
Yeah, that feels right.
So if you're a leader or a teacher or even, say, a tech developer trying to embed an ethical principle, just relying on abstract language, words without anchors, it's basically guaranteeing failure.
Your message just sinks without a trace.
Instantly. We need sophisticated stickiness now more than ever.
So for educators, what's the imperative?
It's undeniable. You have to use metaphors and visuals. If you're teaching something complex, macroeconomics, quantum physics, coding, whatever, finding that core guiding visual model. That's the difference.
The difference between what?
Between a student just cramming facts for a test, rote memorization, versus them actually carrying that deep conceptual understanding with them for life. Abstract principles need a visual home to live in.
Can you give an example of that? Translating something complex, like, say, how money moves in an economy.
Okay, good one. You don't just describe it with percentages and abstract ratios. That puts people to sleep. You describe it visually. Maybe you compare wealth building to a stream versus a reservoir.
Okay, I can picture that.
A stream gives you water now. It's immediate, but it's finite. It can dry up. A reservoir, though, that's managed. It's built strategically for the long haul, designed to get you through droughts, future scarcity.
So suddenly, complex financial ideas like compounding long-term investment.
They get anchored to this universally understood image of managing water. Simple, visual, sticky.
That's a really effective translation. What about for leaders? People running teams, organizations?
Well, you mentioned logos and mission statements. Those are attempts at symbols, right?
Sure.
But the most effective leaders, they go deeper. They deploy what we could call organizational concept anchors. They communicate the vision using symbols people can instantly see and feel.
Like what? Any modern examples?
Absolutely. Think about some organizational models that really stuck, like Amazon's famous two-pizza team.
Right. If you need more than 2 pizzas to feed the team's too big.
Exactly. It's immediate, it's visual, it's almost visceral. You instantly understand the principle of small, agile teams. It needs zero further explanation. That's the writer's shade, just modernized and applied to corporate structure.
So the best symbols simplify complexity.
Yes, and crucially, they often communicate the cost or the benefit of the behavior tied to that value. A leader needs to craft that repeatable image that compresses the entire vision into something tangible.
Okay. And then there's the AI era imperative. You mentioned this is maybe the most critical modern application.
I think it might be. It's highlighted quite strongly in the source analysis. As algorithms make more decisions, as data processing becomes this massive abstract thing,
Our human values get lost. Ethics become just buzzwords.
they can easily become distant, abstract. If you just rely on, say, abstract policy documents to enforce fairness or prevent bias in AI, it's just not enough.
It won't work.
It's almost doomed to fail. The source material specifically points to using things like infographics, dashboards, visual metaphors to ground ethical values. Make them concrete.
Okay, how would that work? Take fairness in an AI model that's abstract.
Right. If the only guideline is a 50-page policy document buried somewhere, that value remains abstract for the engineer working on the code.
So what's the alternative?
What if you create a fairness dashboard, a visual tool? Maybe it uses simple color coding, green, yellow, red, to visually show the level of bias risk across key demographic groups. A literal visual anchor for fairness.
So you turn the abstract moral duty into a concrete risk indicator right there on their screen.
Exactly. It forces accountability. If that visual meter goes into the red, the system is clearly violating the anchored value. Everyone can see it. No ambiguity.
That is fascinating. A visual language for ethics in tech.
Yes. And this broader context just hammers home the main takeaway. In this world saturated with abstract data, if you want to paint truth into people's minds, make it actionable, make it stick, you need a deliberate, sophisticated visual language.
The challenge isn't getting information anymore.
No, it's anchoring the information that truly matters to action.
Okay, this leads perfectly into the practical side. We've seen the history, we see the modern need. Now let's talk about the how. For you, the listener, how can you design your own concept-based anchors? in daily life, at work, with family.
Right. We can actually lay out a step-by-step method derived from analyzing how these master communicators did it.
Okay, what's step one?
Before you even think about delivering a message, teaching something, persuading someone, setting a vision, the absolute first step is asking yourself the core image question.
Which is?
What is the one visual anchor that captures the absolute essence of my entire message? Just one.
And if you can't answer that easily,
Then your message is probably too complicated, too abstract, or you haven't distilled it enough yourself. It's not ready to be anchored.
okay, so find that core image first. Then what?
Then you develop the 3 specific types of anchors we've been talking about, and ideally, you use them in combination. That gives you maximum retention power.
Okay, let's walk through an example. Let's say a listener is a manager, and they're trying to build a team culture around, proactive, collaborative problem solving. That sounds pretty abstract.
Perfect example, very corporate, very abstract. Okay, so we start with type 1, the visual anchor. This is your diagram, your chart, maybe even a simple drawing or story picture.
How would that apply here?
For proactive, collaborative problem solving, you ditch the boring bullet points describing the process. Instead, maybe you create a simple flow chart. Let's call it the continuous loop.
Okay, picture a loop.
A circle, maybe with 3 key segments clearly labeled. Identify the problem, converge, work together on solutions, act, implement, and test. But critically, no exit arrows, only feedback loops going back into identify.
Ah, so the visual structure itself teaches the core idea.
Exactly. It simplifies the relationship between the steps and reinforces that problem solving isn't linear. It doesn't just end. It's a continuous cycle of improvement. The memory maps the concept spatially onto that circle shape.
That clarity makes it instantly much more retrievable than just words. Okay, what about hitting the emotional, conceptual side of that same goal?
For that, you need type 2, the metaphor anchor. This is where you compare the abstract idea to something concrete from daily life, something relatable.
Okay, what works for proactive, collaborative problem solving needs teamwork, continuous effort.
We need an image that conveys mutual reliance and staying in motion even when things get tough. Maybe.
Heck,
Maybe compare the team to a 4-engine plane.
a 4-engine plane, how does that work?
You tell the team, look, every big challenge we face, it's like we're flying this 4-engine plane together.
Right.
If one engine sputters or fails,
Yeah.
we don't just give up and land. We rely on the other 3 engines, that's our teammates. We adjust our flight path together collaboratively, and maybe the support crew fixes that engine while we're still airborne.
Okay, that paints a picture. High stakes, teamwork is essential. Keep moving.
It instantly anchors the need for teamwork, continuous momentum, mutual support into this dramatic visual everyone gets. The complex idea becomes relatable, emotionally grounded, less boring corporate jargon.
Definitely more memorable. Okay, so we have the diagram, the loop, and the metaphor, the plane. What's the final piece?
We need that quick cue for recall. The most compressed form, that's type 3, the symbol anchor.
This is the repeatable gesture or
Yep.
phrase.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or maybe an emblem, an icon, something that serves as a constant, quick, often nonverbal reminder of the whole vision.
So for a manager with the loop and the plane, what could their symbol anchor be?
It could be a specific, repeatable physical gesture. Maybe borrowing from the historical example, they touch fingers together in a certain way at the end of meetings. Or it could be combined with a short, unique phrase. Maybe as they make a unifying gesture, they just say, stay in flight.
Ah, so that little phrase or gesture acts like a zip file.
Perfect analogy. It's a compressed file for the whole philosophy, the continuous loop, the 4-engine plane. When people see the gesture or hear that phrase, boom, the entire complex idea unpacks instantly in their minds.
So the overall actionable strategy here for everyone listening is really to break the habit of just saying concepts, just talking.
Yes, make a conscious commitment. Turn every teaching moment, every communication opportunity, whether you're coaching your kid, running a huge meeting, writing a key email, into a chance to create a memorable image.
Not just forgettable words.
Exactly. Ask yourself afterwards, did people walk away just with notes, with words?
Mhm.
Or do they have a shared visual model in their head? If it's only words, you've likely missed the crucial chance to anchor that teaching in their long-term memory and make it actionable.
Because the visual model is the bridge.
It's the bridge between knowing what you're supposed to do
Yeah.
and actually understanding how and why in a way that sticks.
This has been, well, incredibly rich and really practical, too. We started way back with these timeless teaching methods
Methods wired into how our brains work.
and discovered they basically hold the keys to surviving, or at least navigating, this modern flood of information.
Yeah.
So just to recap the absolute core points. Concept-based images, they're the mechanism. They transform abstract values, complex data, into lived memory, into action.
The skill mastered way back.
And absolutely critical today for anyone trying to lead, teach, communicate effectively, or just make sense of the noise in the AI era.
Right. And maybe we can leave you, the listener, with a final challenge.
Yeah.
A provocative thought for reflection. This comes straight from the action notes in the source material.
Okay, let's hear it.
For the next week, just observe. Review your own communication, both what you say out loud and maybe even your internal self-talk. And ask yourself honestly, are the messages, the values, the ideas I'm putting out there, are they currently just forgettable words? Or am I actively trying to structure them as potentially unforgettable images?
Am I asking people to remember a policy, or am I asking them to see a metaphor?
Exactly. That's the core question.
Sure.
Here's the ultimate challenge from that. Pick one. One important value or goal you have right now. Maybe it's team trust, maybe it's financial discipline for yourself, maybe it's personal consistency.
Okay, pick one goal.
And dedicate some real thought to crafting its three anchors: the visual diagram or structure, the core metaphor, and the repeatable symbol, the gesture or phrase.
And then use them.
And then deliberately use them. Practice embedding them. Because the language of symbols, the language of images, that's the language of deep, lasting influence.
A powerful and very practical challenge indeed. Thank you. This is a fantastic deep dive.
My pleasure. Lots to think about.
Definitely. Thanks, everyone, for diving deep with us. We'll catch you next time.